Welcome, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today we're doing something really unique. We're exploring a what-if scenario, one that reimagines a huge moment in history.
That's right. We're diving into this fascinating literary narrative called Marilyn Monroe Lives, a Reimagined Fate.
And it takes us right back to that night, August 6, 1962, the night of Marilyn Monroe's alleged overdose. Except in this version, she lives. So our mission today is to really unpack this narrative, understand what it suggests could have happened for her to survive, and look at the drama, the twists, this whole different outcome. Okay, well, what kind of story are we actually dealing with here? How does it set the stage?
Well, what's really compelling is that it's not just, a simple retelling. It's a deep dive into motives, relationships, and the immediate aftermath of that crisis, but all seen through this reimagined lens. It really asks you, the listener, to think about that whole web of events, the personal stuff around Marilyn, focusing on that night. Yeah, but with a totally different ending. It's sort of a journey into maybe hidden truths, consequences, things that might have happened. It pushes us to look past the headlines,
Okay, so to understand how she could have lived, the narrative starts with her psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Greensen. And it paints this really complex and, frankly, pretty disturbing picture of their relationship.
Yeah, it suggests his professional boundaries got incredibly blurred, almost right away, really, under the guise of therapy.
He seemed to be providing this kind of surrogate family for her, right? Offering the normalcy she craved.
Exactly, but this wasn't casual. He was always available. Sessions sometimes went for, 5 hours, plus tons of phone calls. And as the narrative lays it out, the blurring went even further. Marilyn actually got quite involved with his family, knew his kids, sometimes even stayed at their house.
He called this immersive therapy.
That's the term used. Supposedly to treat her intimacy issues. But, and this is deeply troubling, the narrative claims he convinced her he needed first-hand accounts of her sexual behavior.
First-hand accounts for therapy.
Yeah, presented as necessary for a proper and accurate assessment. But it looks much more like it served his own needs, not hers. A huge ethical breach.
That jumps right out, doesn't it? The whole ethical question. And then the narrative goes further.
It does. It makes this pretty bold claim that Greensen, despite being her doctor, fell in love with her.
Cool.
And he started to expect her to feel the same way back, especially with all his involvement, the emotional support, their intimate encounters under the banner of therapy.
But Marilyn didn't see it that way.
According to this narrative, no. For her, it was strictly professional, part of the treatment. She stayed emotionally detached.
It just shows how easily those lines can erode, when a therapist's own needs get tangled up with the patient's vulnerability.
It's a corruption of the whole process, really, turning a safe space into something driven by the therapist's issues. His actions, as depicted here, aren't just blurred lines. It's a dangerous entanglement.
And this is where things really start to heat up, right? Because Greensen's hopes, his plan for her feelings, it starts falling apart. The narrative points to her involvement with the Kennedys. That was the turning point.
Yes. He saw how infatuated Marilyn was with President Kennedy and with Bobby, and he realized he was, losing her focus, or maybe, as the text suggests, realizing he never had her in the first place, despite everything he'd done.
So he's seeing her direct her affection elsewhere. After all his efforts, this immersive therapy, that must have hit his ego hard.
You have to imagine so. For Marilyn, the relationship with Greensen, his family, it stayed professional in her mind. That gap between his expectations and her reality, it apparently fueled this rage inside him.
So the love, the dependency he wanted from her, it just wasn't there. And seeing her involvement with the Kennedys deepen, the narrative says that ignited a cauldron of rage and anger. Tied to his own insecurities, right? As a man, a lover. Compared to guys like DiMaggio, Miller, the Kennedys.
Exactly. Feeling he didn't measure up despite his professional status. And that feeling, combined with his power over her, it led somewhere dark.
It really shows how personal insecurity and professional power mixed with obsession. It's a toxic combination.
Absolutely. It highlights that dangerous mix. And the narrative is clear. The decision, if he could not have her, no one else will, was apparently settled in his mind by that night, August 6th.
So not spontaneous. Premeditated.
That's the implication, born from this consuming obsession.
Okay, so with that internal pressure cooker ready to blow, the narrative shifts to the night itself. It gives this chilling, almost minute-by-minute reimagining of how she could have survived. Greensen's plan in this version involved the housekeeper, Eunice.
Right. She was supposedly instructed to prepare and give Marilyn a dose of Nembutal. That's a strong barbiturate sedative.
And not orally.
No, via an enema, rectal delivery. For faster absorption, the narrative implies.
And he told Eunice it was just, what, a mild sedative?
Yeah, a mild sedative for a good night's sleep. He supposedly emphasized using the distilled water provided, which already had the Nembutal mixed in, specifically warned against tap water, saying it would irritate Marilyn's lining. The timing was set for 10:15 p.m.
It's so specific, so
No,
deliberate.
It really paints a picture. Then the narrative says Greensen called before 11 p.m., get no answer, and drove over himself.
Arriving around 11:20 p.m., and Eunice.
Eunice opened the door. Her story was she'd fallen asleep, tried to wake Marilyn, but the bedroom door was locked. Marilyn wasn't responding.
Greensen wasn't happy about that, I imagine.
No, the text says he chided her. Then, when Marilyn still didn't answer, he broke a window on the French doors to get in.
And Eunice claimed he then got the enema kit.
That's her account later. That Greensen retrieved the enema receptacle from the kitchen and took it into the bedroom, though she didn't see him use it.
Okay, then things get even more complicated.
Right around 11:40 p.m., a car pulls up. Greensen sees it, tells Eunice, get rid of whoever was calling.
And it was.
Peter Lawford and Bobby Kennedy. Eunice tried to send them away, said Marilyn was asleep, Dr. Greensen was with her.
But they didn't buy it.
No, they were concerned. They pushed past her. Found Marilyn unconscious in bed, phone in her hand.
And they immediately confront Greensen.
Yes, asking about her condition. Greensen's assessment, unconscious, low pulse, shallow breathing.
And the ambulance?
Bobby Kennedy asked if he called one. Greensen said no, adding he wasn't sure it was necessary.
Not necessary, wow.
That's when Kennedy apparently took Troge, put his ear to her heart, then yelled at Eunice to call an ambulance immediately.
That urgency. Greensen's reluctance. It's a really stark contrast in this telling.
It really is. The ambulance got there fast, just 11 minutes later. CPR started, rushed her to Cedars-Sinai. Lawford, Kennedy, Greensen all went in the ambulance. That sequence, Greensen's hesitation, Kennedy's action, it's pivotal in this reimagined scenario.
Incredible fight for her life. So
Yeah.
she gets to the hospital. What happens next? How do they pull her back?
Well, at Cedars-Sinai ER, the team was ready. They hit her with adrenaline, oxygen, but she wasn't responding initially. They had to shock her heart multiple times before they got a response.
Wow.
Her heart started, then stopped again briefly. Another round of shocks, it started beating, but brain activity was dangerously low.
So critical.
Absolutely. They put her on a ventilator, IV fluids, and within minutes, thankfully, brain activity normalized. But she was still unconscious, not responding to voices.
And that tension mentioned earlier between Greensen and Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah, the narrative notes obvious tension. When hospital staff tried to get medical info, it was clear something was off. She was put on life support around 1:05 a.m., stayed on it until just after 4 a.m. when she was fully revived.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And when does she regain consciousness?
Around 4 a.m., groggily at first, staying that way until about noon. And crucially, no memory of what happened.
Her last memory was talking to Lawford earlier that evening.
Around 9:30 p.m. the night before. That amnesia, plus everything else, it immediately sets the stage for an investigation.
Right. The tension, the unanswered questions.
Yeah.
It couldn't just be swept under the rug.
Exactly. This wasn't going to be a simple accidental overdose story in this version of events.
Okay, so Marilyn's stable, but the questions start flying. Police get involved, and the stories don't line up.
Not at all. Toxicology confirmed the Nembutal lethal doses, but, and this is key, no residue in her throat.
Meaning she didn't swallow pills.
Precisely. Which backed up Marilyn's own insistence later she took no Nembutal orally that night.
So the police talked to Greensen and Eunice, and their accounts clash.
Big time. Greensen told them Eunice gave the enema, then fell asleep. That's why he was alarmed. He claimed Marilyn should have just been sedated, still responsive, and he said the enema only had Librium, 50 milligram, much milder.
But the tox report showed Nembutal.
Right. Greensen also claimed he had pre-prepared the enema, left it for Eunice, and it was gone when he got there, implying she used it and got rid of it. He was definitely building a story.
And Eunice was her version.
Completely different. She insisted she never got the chance to give any medication. Marilyn's door was locked. She was unresponsive. Eunice also said her instructions were for a blue and yellow capsule consistent with Librium, not Nembutal.
And the enema kit itself.
Eunice stated Greensen took it from the kitchen after he broke into the bedroom. The kit itself, missing. Couldn't be found. Total conflict.
Wow. The missing evidence, the opposing stories. It points clearly towards a cover-up attempt, doesn't it?
It paints a very strong picture of someone trying to control the narrative, absolutely. The toxicology, especially the lack of oral residue, becomes powerful evidence supporting Marilyn and Eunice.
So does the truth come out in this reimagined story?
It does. According to this narrative, under intense questioning from the DA's office, likely pushed by Bobby Kennedy's influence, Dr. Greensen confessed, administering the lethal dose, expressed remorse, shame.
He confessed. But then Marilyn makes this incredibly complex decision.
Yeah.
She doesn't press charges.
No. She chooses not to pursue it legally or publicly reveal what really happened.
Why? What were her reasons, according to the narrative?
It's portrayed as multifaceted. First, compassion. She knew Greensen's family, his wife Hildy, the kids. She cared about them and didn't want them destroyed by the scandal.
She pitied him.
Yeah, saw it as a serious lapse of judgment, an emotional breakdown, rather than pure evil, perhaps.
And there were other factors, too, more personal, more protective.
Definitely. Protecting her own secrets. A trial would inevitably expose her affairs with JFK and RFK, tracing Greensen's motive back to them, politically explosive.
And the nature of their therapy.
Exactly. She was deeply embarrassed about being, as the text puts it, duped into sexual intercourse for therapeutic reasons. A massive betrayal she didn't want public, didn't want it hurting her relationship with his wife and kids either.
It's such a complex choice. Protecting others, protecting her own privacy, maybe even a kind of forgiveness.
Yeah.
At a huge personal cost, potentially.
It really highlights the pressures of fame, the difficult choices people make in those impossible situations. She distanced herself from him, forgave him, but had no more contact.
Okay. So she lives. She makes these incredibly difficult choices. What happens next in her life in this Marilyn Monroe lives scenario?
Well, perhaps surprisingly, the incident actually brings Marilyn and Bobby Kennedy closer. Their connection deepens.
Really?
Yeah, the narrative claims they continued an affair for several years, even after JFK's assassination. It suggests Marilyn spent a lot of time consoling Bobby after his brother's death, forming this unique bond.
And then there's an even bigger twist.
Right, a massive one. According to this account, Marilyn became pregnant by Robert Kennedy late in 1962. She had a son.
Wow. Did she reveal who the father was?
Not publicly, not for many years. She protected her son's privacy and the Kennedy reputation.
But the Kennedys knew.
Oh, yes. In fact, Bobby and his wife Ethel became godparents to the boy, Christopher Maxwell Monroe Kennedy. The narrative says the son spent considerable time with the Kennedys as he grew up, became part of their extended circle.
That's just incredible. A completely different life path. Finding family, stability, but through this incredibly traumatic event and secret arrangement.
It paints her as deeply grateful to Bobby for being a father figure and to the whole Kennedy family for their kindness. She apparently considered them the best of friends.
So a life forged from crisis, leading to something unexpectedly stable, in a way.
Exactly. It suggests that resilience, that unexpected relationships can bloom even after trauma, changing everything. It really makes you question how much of a life is set in stone.
What an absolutely incredible deep dive. We've gone through blurred lines, obsession, a desperate act, a dramatic rescue, conflicting stories, a confession, and then this profound choice that reshaped her entire life and legacy.
Indeed. This narrative really pushes us to think about the forces under the surface, doesn't it? Not just the public story, but the private desires, the vulnerabilities that actually shape events. It asks us to look beyond the easy answers for these iconic figures.
It really does make you think how one moment, one different decision, one person intervening, it could change everything for someone so famous. You've heard this reimagined stories, Marilyn Monroe.
So maybe here's a thought to take away. How many stories that we think we know solid are just one possible version? And how often are the real keys to understanding history hidden in those private motivations, the things the public never sees?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you a fresh perspective, maybe a few aha moments. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.